Hey everybody, it's Thursday night. I'm Josh Olive. This is Haven Comics. So it's time for Shop Talk. We're going to be talking comics. We're going to be talking all kinds of stuff. So stick around after this awesome intro video. What's up, everybody? I make a little adjustment here. I'm slightly out of whack. Not sure what's going on. Is that better? Looks better. I'm still in the picture, so it don't look that much better. But we'll see how that goes. Speaking of things that look better, what's up?
I gotta be honest with you, I'm still kind of on an emotional high from last week's episode.
100%. If you have not yet watched last week's episode with Matthew Rosenberg, you got to go back and watch that. It's worth watching if the only bit of it you watch is our question about what's the weirdest thing he's ever seen at a convention.
It's worth it just for that alone.
That it is.
All right, so let's just dive right into it. We are 3 episodes in on Daredevil Born Again.
Boy, we sure are. And we haven't seen Daredevil in episodes 2 or 3.
I love what they're doing. I really liked the 3rd episode. I thought it was great. I liked the ending of it. It was rough.
Oh, that was rough. And that sound effect they had at the end was just heartbreaking. You're like, my goodness.
And I really enjoy we lost like 3 viewers really quick. I guess they hadn't seen it yet. But I really enjoy how they're leaning into the controversy of the Punisher logo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm liking that, but I'm here to tell you that at 7:03, March 13th, 2025, Foggy Nelson is not dead, and I've got proof.
I think I've seen the same proof that you have, and I hope that that's right, because I really like Foggy in this show. I like him a lot, and I would like for that particular story from the Daredevil comics to bear out.
Yeah, that right there is very possibly, if it does pan out, that's very possibly one of the best, well-placed Easter eggs that I've seen in anything MCU. And that right there is a definite shout out. If it does play out, that storyline does play out, it is a definite shout out to comic book fans, the way that Easter egg was done.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, that was, and I mean, I didn't even catch it at first. I'll be honest.
I didn't either, but I think we should elaborate and let people know what we're talking about. But before we do that, I would like to say, I appreciate you saying that. We thought that Matthew Rosenberg was flat out amazing. We got off afterwards, and we're just kind of talking behind backstage, and we both were like, I would just hang out with that dude at a comic shop on a Wednesday and talk comics.
Yep.
And if it was the place where he grew up, we would go downstairs and get a burger, talk comics some more, right? Just what an awesome dude.
You can tell that he is still a fan of the characters, and that makes it so much better.
Well, you can tell he still reads comics.
Yep.
A lot of these guys don't read comics anymore. They're like, I don't have time to read comics, or I don't want to find my inspiration from comics, and accidentally copy something or whatever. And I get that, but I think it's pretty exciting when you talk to a comic creator who is a comics fan. They're always going to look at the world a little bit different, and it's going to hit home and resonate a little bit more. And I just really enjoyed talking to him. I thought he was absolutely brilliant.
All right,
if you haven't had a chance to sign up yet for we're taking everyone down with us at your local comic shop, you definitely need to do that. I hope he enjoys great success with this book, and the only way to do that is to sell it, put it in people's hands, get them to read it. So read Matthew Rosenberg's We're taking everyone down with us. Again, not for the kids, but for the grown-ups. It's a great read.
Yeah. But before we talk about this Easter egg, let me just go and throw up the spoiler alert. So do you want to tell it or do you want me to tell it? Doesn't matter.
Go for it.
All right. In the first episode of Daredevil Born Again, when Matt, Foggy, and Karen are leaving the law firm, that whole scene was kind of weird to me because I felt like I was watching some type of like romantic comedy for just a minute. But as they're walking out the door, if you look on the wall to what would be your right, there is
Hang on, let's address something real quick.
Do what?
Hang on. Daniel, don't go away. It's not the kind of spoiler that gives anything away in the story. It's purely speculative.
Yeah, this is purely speculative.
If you've seen the first episode, everything else we're talking about purely speculative, but it's compelling.
Yeah. Jay, weird. I just muted you. So, well, what happens is on the wall to the right-hand side, if you have not seen the first episode, go back and watch, or if you have seen it, go back and watch it. It looks like it would be like, say, some type of like meter, like they would read for your like power or whatever. And on the meter, you see the numbers 468. And that right there is and this got pointed out by somebody online, and it's funny how the second they pointed it out, they literally, the writers and directors went like radio silent. Dictionary. But 468 is a direct reference to the legacy numbering. I believe it was like, I don't know, volume whatever, like issue 88 or some crap like that. But 468 is a reference to the legacy issue of Daredevil where it's called The Secret Life of Foggy Nelson, and he's actually in witness protection.
What's more, in the comics, how did her name just run right out of my head? Vanessa.
Karen?
Vanessa.
Oh.
Vanessa fakes Foggy Nelson's death. And Matt Murdock, Daredevil, hears Foggy's heartbeat dwindle down to nothing. Just exactly like he did in the show.
Yep.
You combine those two things and the role that we're seeing Vanessa playing in this, which is increasingly active, there's a very good chance that Foggy Nelson is in fact not dead. And that would be phenomenal if they pull that off. I will say that actor is coming back for Daredevil Born Again Season 2. Now that could just be flashbacks, but we do know that actor is back for the second season.
Yeah.
Yepper.
But I really, so let's just go back to the actual show itself. I've seen several people like complain about it because they're not seeing Daredevil. I have pretty much decided that the people that critique Daredevil Born Again for Screen Rant have never read a comic book in their lives. They do not need to be writing these articles about things they don't understand. I mean, I'm just going to be honest about it. Every time I read a Screen Rant article about Daredevil Born Again, I'm ready to chunk my phone across the room. There's been subtle things that are in it that Daredevil, like comic book fans, are really picking up on.
Yep.
There was one scene that the second I saw it, I got so excited because I know that they will probably never do it. They'll never go down the Father Matthew rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
But that scene where he stops in front of the church and he kind of zeroes in and he's listening to the people worship inside the church and just the look on his face. the first thing I thought of was Father Matthew.
Oh yeah, it was a great scene.
This is how I was. I was in the recliner like this, and I went.
See, I like the fact that in both the comics and the TV show, they don't shy away from his strongly held religious beliefs, and that he was raised the way he was. I think it's really critical to his character in a lot of ways. It's why he does what he does. It's why he does things the way he does. It's the guilt that drives him. But it's also what stopped him from becoming Elektra, right? It's what stopped him from becoming Stick. He was raised with a conscience, and they weren't.
Yep.
So it's really interesting how that all plays out, and I think it's fantastic. I really love it.
Oh yeah, no, you're spot on with that, Daniel Major. And the people that are critiquing it harshly, they don't understand that. There was one point, even in within the past year, Father Matthew was more important of a character than Daredevil was.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and it was, honestly, there for a while, couldn't even get enough. I hope they bring back the Father Matthew persona, because he's still in there somewhere. Now, I do like where they're at in the comic book now. He's had to go back to court. I like what they're doing. I really enjoyed the whole trial of White Tiger in in episode 3.
Oh, that was great.
I thought that, and I know a lot of people are like, well, if I wanted a legal drama, I'd go watch such and such, or I'd go do this. And I get it. But, when you go back to actually looking at the character of Matt Murdock, being a lawyer was just as big a deal to him as being Daredevil, especially in the beginning when they were doing everything pro bono.
Yeah. There's so many different sides to his character, and I like that they fleshed them all out.
Yeah.
Right. I don't like it. The wedge between Matt and Karen kind of felt forced. I thought, like they just didn't want to pay for her to be on the show. So she's in San Francisco now.
Well, if you go back, and now this is like deep cuts right here. And it happened in the 60s. There was an issue or two where I believe these were written by Roy Thomas. I think it was when Stan had taken a break, and maybe it was right around Stan Lee, Roy Thomas. It was one of those two that wrote it.
Okay.
But Karen and Matt were going back and forth because Matt was in love with her, but he didn't want to put her in this situation. She was in love with him, and she felt like he never saw her. And she actually ran off to like upstate New York or Connecticut or somewhere like that to go stay with her. I think it was her aunt and uncle. And he ended up having to go and get her. He had to save her as Daredevil. It might have been Stan Lee that wrote that, because I think it was right not too long after that was when they started that wonky storyline that Daredevil was actually Matt's long lost twin brother, Mike Murdock. Which kind of dumb. I'm glad that didn't last long.
Yeah.
But there's also a reference in her being in San Francisco as well.
Yeah.
So there's so much going on with this, with 3 episodes. It has been friggin' awesome. I've loved it.
Well, having just rewatched the first 3 seasons of Daredevil at Netflix, Karen Page is such a very different character from the Karen in the comics.
Yep.
She's much stronger. She has a lot more agency. Obviously, the comics didn't kill off Ben Urich as quickly, certainly, as the show did. But having her kind of step into that role, I thought was really interesting. And because in the comics, she had a drug problem and she died. And they explored that a little bit in season 2, I think, where you got into a little bit of her history and such. But I really like her character in the show, and I hate to lose her in the show. So I hope it's not she's gone for the rest of the the season or anything. I hope they patch mend fences and she comes back.
But she is a great character. But ultimately, we all know that it's Daredevil and Elektra. So what do we actually do? How do we explain that in the in a TV series for the just basically I'm looking at it straight from a fan of the MCU's perspective.
I'm not talking about them being romantic. I'm just talking about her being in the show.
Yeah, but people are going to want that because they've been, even in the beginning of that first episode where they're sitting at the bar, you're kind of, are they finally going to hook up? Or, I mean, is this going to happen? I mean, are we there? Are we there? And then it all falls apart. But for like Daredevil fans, we all know it's him and Elektra. I mean, that's the king and queen right there. I mean, that's all there is to it. Oh, Matt, we're about to get sidetracked for just a second.
Well, you should just have this on your calendar for every Thursday.
Yep, but Josh finally knows what it feels like to be you.
God dang. You don't have to tell people that.
Because before we went live...
Hang on. We gotta take this off.
Yep. Before we went live, he held up a comic book that I had texted him about, and he's like, I'm so mad at you right now. Yeah, he true. And I think I got that comic book somewhere in here to talk about.
It's true. I said before we went on, I said, man, I got a bone to pick with you. And he's like, what? Like, sounded like he was genuinely concerned. And
there for a second I was.
Oh, somebody let Jay know that we're done with the Daredevil spoiler stuff. Anyway, here, I'll message him. Anyway, I just said, hey, we got a bone to pick with you. Or I got a bone to pick with you. He's like, what? And I just held up the comic. And I was like, you made me buy this comic.
And it was a good comic, wasn't it?
Yes.
Did you not get excited when you saw that last page?
Yes.
Man, the Superman, you know what? I mean, we can keep talking about Daredevil the rest of the night if you want to, or we can get into comics. It's up to you. I don't care.
Let's talk comics. We didn't get to talk comics at all last week, so let's talk some comics.
So this is everything that I've read. This is what I picked up at the shop today, but we'll get to that in a minute. I hadn't read anything I picked up today. Right off the bat, I know that since Williamson has left Green Arrow, that some people feel like it's declining. I'm really enjoying this whole freshwater killer storyline. It's been really good. We're getting close to it wrapping up. So this is not a good time to jump on Arrow, but it's been a really solid book. I mean, for 21 issues, I've really enjoyed it. And I was never a big Green Arrow fan before this.
That's the important thing for people to know right there.
Yeah, I was not. And I literally picked it up because it was supposed to be like a six-issue
limited series. Yep.
And then the writing, Josh Williamson's writing was so good on it. It went from 6 to 12.
Yep.
And then it was like, okay, we just don't know when we're going to end it. People are enjoying it.
It quietly became an ongoing book. And that's DC's new model, by the way.
Yep.
If a limited series is taken off, then it can be turned into an ongoing series.
Yeah, and it's been really good, but I do not
suggest... we start talking about DC Comics, and look who shows up. What is happening,
really? The
man?
second we mention them.
Yeah. Rock on, brother. Good to see you. As always, if you want to pop on and talk comics, we'd love to have you. I learn something every time I talk to you on comics, and I love that.
Next up on my list, one near and dear to mine and Josh's both hearts, issue 314. Now is, if you're not reading G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero.
That's fantastic. That's ooh.
Yeah, this is now the time to jump on it because this was a standalone issue. We're in between story arcs.
And it sure was nice to get to see some characters that we don't get to see very often anymore.
It was nice to see Sherlock back because we have not seen Sherlock in a long time.
Heck, we haven't seen Tunnel Rat in forever.
Yeah, and Tripwire also. I mean, we got 3 Joes that we hadn't seen in a while. But this was kind of like basically an issue where it's a small team that goes in for an extraction. I thought it was really good. I did like the way they kind of tied in Sherlock's original story.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a nice little touch.
I think that story it's like a little palate cleanser between kind of bigger story arcs, but I think that story is going to have some downstream effects. I think some other things are going to happen.
I would love it if we got a Sherlock classified figure.
Oh, I would too. Now, this is a loaded question right here. I'll tell you what. I'll give my take on it, and Alan can give his take on it. We'll see how much we're alike. If the Energon G.I. Joe title, Energon Universe G.I. Joe title, was the only G.I. Joe title we had, I'd be okay with it. I wouldn't love it, but I'd be okay with it. As it is, since we have the G.I. Joe Real American Heroes book with Larry Hama, and he's continuing that saga, I look at the Energon title kind of as like an icing on the cake, kind of like an alternate universe, lots of similar characters. Okay, cool. I don't know that I would love it if it was the only title out there, but having both of them, it's greater than the sum of its parts. It makes me very, very, very happy. I think that the Absolute G.I. Joe, you're kind of right. Yeah, that's what it is. But it's an interesting book. Now, if I'm just looking at it on its own merits and what do I like or dislike about it, I don't love the art generally. It's kind of the house style for most of the Skybound Universe books. They've kind of got a style. It's a little bit looser than I like. It's a little bit freer than I like when it comes to detail and things like that. And I'm sure that helps them do things faster and get their books out on time and that kind of stuff. So I appreciate that aspect of it. But the art's not as clean and crisp as I would typically like to see just stylistically. It's okay. It just doesn't rev my motor. I find it difficult, and I will see how they navigate this. But I think once you introduce massive robots like the Transformers into the G.I. Joe world, it's very hard for humans to be relevant from a military perspective. And I think that's going to be a really fine line that they have to tread. So I'll be curious to see how they do that. I'll be very curious. And that is upcoming. I sat in on an Energon Universe retailer roundtable today and heard some interesting things on that front. So, yeah, definitely some things happening.
So with just looking solely at the G.I. Joe for Energon title without the solo titles, I really like what they've done with changing some of the characters up as far as Baroness is with G.I. Joe. Oh crap, her name just left me. She is actually Destro's lover in this. Chameleon? Yes, Chameleon. I like these little change-ups like this. One thing that, yes, most definitely. One thing that I've really enjoyed is Duke is not as strong a character as you would think he is, as he would think he should be in Real American Hero. Real American Hero to me is more of an ensemble thing. Yes. I like this version of Duke in the Energon universe.
I will 100% give you that. I think Duke is a way more compelling character in the Energon universe than he ever was in the regular series. Same for Cobra Commander.
Yeah, and that's where I was going next. This version of Cobra Commander is friggin' awesome. There's been subtle things that I have really enjoyed. I did not enjoy Rock and Roll getting killed in the first issue. I'm still, a little butthurt over that. I like the way Clutch is being done in this.
See, I think, Daniel, that they know that we're all just expecting that to happen, and I think they are going to just twist and twist and twist and twist on that until we stop expecting it, and then they're going to do it.
There are certain characters in the Energon verse that I want to, and I know they said they weren't going to rush like Snake Eyes, but I do want to see how they're going to do him. I did like the way they introduced Storm Shadow in the solo title, in the solo Scarlet title, and then immediately backed off. I really, they gave us just enough of Snow Job to piss me off because it was not more.
I think you're really just looking forward to issue number 7. Is that accurate?
Wait a minute. What's happening in issue 7? Do what?
The introduction of Beachhead.
Oh yeah. Oh, those are the silent issues.
Am I freezing up, or is it Alan? We have a really bad storm rolling this way, so I don't know. I guess we should have started with that. But Alan, you keep freezing up momentarily, and I don't know if that's on my end or your end.
I tell you what. How about now? Am I freezing up now?
No.
Okay. Well, then we'll keep going. Yeah, I like the way that they're kind of slow rolling the stuff, but at the same time, I'm kind of like Josh. What is going to happen when the giant robots show up? How are we?
Well, we're going to find that out pretty soon too. I can tell you, based on what I saw today, that's coming sooner rather than later, and you will appreciate the cover that I saw. The cover that I saw is Clutch with a transformer that transforms into a Jeep or a Humvee or something.
Now, wasn't that part of the toy line?
Yes, his name was Hound.
Yeah, but didn't they even do like a box set with Clutch and that particular transformer?
They may have. I don't remember seeing it. Yeah, I would just like to frame this statement right here.
There is, as far as Snake Eyes is concerned, I'm wondering how they're going to tackle his backstory. Are we going to get the OG Snake Eyes, or are we going to? I don't think we'll get Sean Collins in the Energon universe.
No.
If we do, we might get him as Throwdown. Maybe a little glimmer of him somewhere.
See, you just locked up for me.
Did I lock up for everybody? Yeah, I do agree. I think they should keep him a mystery for a long time. But in my mind, Larry Hama in Real American Hero kind of started. He definitely started something with Sean Collins, and we've got to get back to that story to see what the deal is, because in my mind, Sean Collins is Snake Eyes now. And this whole Snake Eyes that talks in Real American Hero is kind of weird to me. Josh, you were definitely frozen. Okay, wait a minute. Now you're not. I think it's on your end.
Yeah, it keeps rolling out. It might be. We've got the storm is hitting over here pretty good. The wind is blowing like crazy.
Gotcha. Well, we can just go ahead and jump straight to the comic book that I sold you on, since Legion is on, and that is Superman issue 23.
Might as well. You jerk.
So that last page where the Absolute Legion shows up, that was just great.
You got to show the cover for longer than that.
Do what?
You got to hold the book up long. People got to be able to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Nice.
Nathan Zerdy. Actually, let's just do this. So I was reading this book. I guess this was one night last week, and
guarantee you we will be talking about that in just a minute. There's no way we're not talking about Hyde Street or Red Coat or Geiger or any of that.
But literally, this page right here, the last page of issue 23. I mean, that it's and okay, I'm sending it to you now, ladies. I'll send it to you on Instagram.
Beautiful, beautiful.
My personal opinion, that is the beginning of the crossover.
And you may very well be right. And people are going to wish that they had picked this book up.
Invite. Oh, where are we at? You're on here somewhere.
You know he is.
There he is.
There he is.
All right, sent you the invite on Instagram. But yeah, this is still part of the Time Trapper storyline. And for those of you that don't know, every time that Doomsday dies, he comes back stronger. And he gets to a point where he's no longer just a mindless monster. He's actually I don't know how. He's very smart, and he's called Time Trapper. So what was your thoughts on the last page with Absolute Legion showing up?
Oh, it was absolutely awesome. The whole storyline, this Doomsday return has been fantastic with the twists and stuff to it.
Yeah, I've definitely...
Alex sold me on it. I haven't been reading Superman. And he's been talking for a while now. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. And then he said, you got to read this issue. And like a jerk, I did, because now I'm hooked. It was freaking awesome.
Did you read Superman in the 90s?
I did, yeah.
So you remember the whole callback, this whole storyline we're doing with the callback to Superman, Doomsday, Hunter, Prey?
Yep.
And that's like where the this entire invading alien species is the planet that Doomsday demolished and stuff.
Yeah,
that alone had me pumped up, because I reread Hunter Prey like last year, I think, because it reminds me of the toys. Because in the 90s we had those Superman toys, and you had like Superman with like all that suit he had with all the straps on and the little headgear that looked like 90s Cyclops, because he went and geared up to go fight Doomsday again. So it was cool them calling back. I forget what they call that glowing blue dude, the Revenant or something. But that was a really cool callback.
I just like, and we've said it time and time again the past several months, but DC's editorial has like flipped a switch.
I've been telling y'all this
2
for
and a half years ago.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
Right about that timeline, it's like they flipped a switch and said, "Hey, we should get serious about comics, and we should tell awesome stories with great art, and yeah, we should have callbacks to events that happened before. We should drop these Easter eggs. We should draw on our history and our legacy and do awesome stuff with it." And it was so quietly done that it took people a while to notice.
Kind of quiet. I've been telling everyone this for years, but if you're a shop owner, so you might see this, like if you take like a step back and look at like a big meta picture of DC, like let's go back to the time, this time era we're in right now is early 2000s time era of editorial at DC. Like when we got like the prelude, when we had like Superman, Batman running, when we had like the prelude, the countdown to Infinite Crisis, all that pre 1 year jump, the 1 year later stuff before New 52. That was an era, an editorial era. Then you get to New 52, and that gets its own editorial era as well, where everything is hyper strict, super specific to a point of it was like harming the creators. You had Action and Superman running at the same time, but you had the writers not communicating, not knowing what characters we can use, because Action was basically Superboy. You know, it was the early days of the same character. They didn't know what's canon in yet because they're creating it. It just was too strict on the writers. And this goes for a long time. And you get to like the Rebirth era, and they do the polar opposite. They're like, let's loose cannon everything. Y'all write your stories, do what you want to do. It all exists in the universe, when and wherever. It kind of just get in where you fit in. And I remember trying to explain the whole Perpetua situation to somebody. I'm like, go to Justice League 32,
Yep.
but then I'm going to need you to go over here to Hell Arisen and issue number 4 issues here, and go over here. And that's how it legitimately was. To keep up with the main continuity story, you had to be reading everything and be able to remember. And for me, that's fun, but that's a terrible experience for newer people or people with lives.
Yeah,
But
it's
now
hard.
what happened, you had the death metal happen, the Dark Knight's death metal. And that was 52 issues of raw storytelling where every single book, every single tie-in mattered, and it called back to everything, and it did all this and that. And then DC flipped the script from a business end, downsized, got rid of people, canceled 5G, and we went into future state, and they brought in some new talent and stuff. And they didn't have any titles on the shelf when they came back after that 2 months. You had like, I think it was like 11 Batman monthly titles and maybe 11 titles combined outside of Batman. And they've rebuilt from there. From there, that's the point where the continuity tightened up, the storytelling tightened up.
Mm-hmm.
And now when we have this all-in era, they're coming with a little bit of experience and flexing in a massive way right now. Big time flexing.
Yeah. At one point, I want to say 4 years ago, thereabouts, it was an April catalog for comics, and 37% of all books that DC put out were Batman titles.
That was probably a low number too for the year.
Yeah,
because man,
and
it was Batman kept the lights on for him.
He did, but it was also too much, right? It was like,
oh yeah, no one's arguing that. They couldn't justify printing anything they knew they weren't going to get their money back on at that time.
And here's where I think they finally fixed things, right? They have this massive backlog of characters who are arguably the best comic book characters ever created. You've got your Batman, but you've got Wonder Woman, you've got Superman, you've got Green Lantern, you've got Green Arrow, you've got Aquaman even. You've got these characters that have been around forever who are just amazing, and they couldn't tell a story with them that people wanted to read for anything. It's just like they couldn't sell it, and that was mind-blowing to me that they couldn't sell these amazing characters. And now Wonder Woman, wow. It's
killing it. Both titles.
I'm loving it. Superman, great.
Killing
it. Green Arrow, it's some people
don't think
it's as great.
You know what happened with that whole thing? Like a lot of this is bigger than a lot of us. Like if you're just going in and grabbing books, you're wondering why aren't these? It's bigger than that. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into this. So a lot of behind the scenes stuff does happen. And when it comes to wondering why DC isn't selling, these companies have been around for a long time. They all have their ebbs and flows, but primarily stuff is a fad. No matter what, any and everything will have a certain level of fad attached to it. What's popular, what's hot. Well, for the past 15 years, 90% at least of new comic book fans became fans from watching the MCU. Mm-hmm. So they go into a shop, they look for what they're familiar with, which at the time is the MCU characters. So they're looking at Marvel books. When they go online to share their stuff or look for stuff, they're seeing other people picking up Marvel, other people talking about Marvel. So that's just naturally the path of least resistance where you go to. Well, we've in the past, 4 years now, 3 years, been in like a steady decline of the popularity of the MCU. So people are looking elsewhere. And then when it comes to DC, you had Batman keeping the lights on, but what was happening on the other side of the curtain is Warner Brothers was getting put under new management across the board. And the biggest factor for all of this was David Zaslav, who is in charge of Warner Brothers proper now. Like Walter Amada's out. David Zaslav came in there like Neil Adams on his first day in the bullpen back in the day. And he walked in and he said, "Where the hell is Superman?"
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And he legitimately asked, "Where the hell is Superman?" He is the flagship character of the brand Warner Brothers. You know, like he's the most iconic, recognizable superhero in all of history.
In the world.
In all of history. And he's not the flagship title. I don't care if Batman's easy to sell. That should be just a clutch. Superman should be here and Batman should be here. It's not one over the other. Those are two separate brands. and they let Superman just go by the wayside due to the Bendis era. So they got lucky because when they did the Future State event and got rid of all the people that they're having to pay a lot of money for and brought in the next alumni of upcoming writers, including Ron V, Jeremy Adams, Tim Sheridan, they brought in Philip Kennedy Johnson, who's a diehard Superman fan, and he's also a diehard family man. And at the time, that was Superman's biggest problem in comics and for readers. He's had this son that was introduced in recent years. They aged him up, and Philip Kennedy Johnson came in and took over Superman and Action, running them both monthly, writing a killer story. And I think Phil Hester even did the art on Action, which Phil Hester's a longtime fan of Green Arrow fans.
Yep.
So, like, there's a lot of things going on that were going right with Superman, and that's when we moved it into the War World saga, which is already talked about regularly. And that's where this editorial thing will blow your mind. That War World saga came around, and it did gangbusters for him. People were talking about it. They were loving it. It was a proper long-form storytelling. And Riccardo Federici was doing interiors for anything that had to do with, like, Old Gods and the Fourth World stuff and all that. Now, that was a hit. That brought Superman back up to the forefront, so much so that, like, he's been selling #1 in some months. Like, again, Superman is selling #1, like, through the House of Brainiac stuff, with the Absolute stuff. They're always in the top 10. So they got him back up there. Now, if you go pick up a copy of New Gods issue #3 that Ram V is writing, it's telling a story. And when you get into issue 3 and they're giving you exposition backstory, they brought Riccardo freaking Federici in to do the pages that involve the Old Gods, which editorially connects it visually to War World from 3.5 years ago, just for consistency's sake. That's what you're talking. When you say it's next level, that's a prime example. They thought, this is a New Gods story, but we got an Old Gods flashback for 7 pages. Let's see what Ricardo's doing. He's our Old Gods guy. I'm like, dude, this is insane.
Their DC's editorial is doing right now is a masterclass in what comic book editorial should be. And I wish to God Marvel would like study it and say we should do that, because Amazing Spider-Man should be their flagship character. It's crap. X-Men should be right up there. They ran great.
Everyone off from X-Men.
They absolutely did. The diehard people are still, a handful of them anyway, are still around for X-Men. And X-Men is selling well across the country, but it's impossible to read and follow without twisting your brain into a pretzel. It's so irritating.
It's not fun is the problem. And
they're not
rocking with any characters that are like, that resonate, that people like. When you think X-Men, there's a handful of characters that everyone thinks of. Some of the roster will change depending on the person, but there's a few characters everyone thinks of, and they're not doing them justice these days.
To me, there's only 3 Marvel books that are fun to read, and that's Moon Knight, Fantastic Four, and Daredevil.
I get Hulk and Ghost Rider just because I'm not a fair-weathered fan. I'm just keeping the runs complete.
Hell Hunters has been really good. And
I'm getting that too. Yeah, I've read issue 1. I've got up to issue 4, but I haven't read 2, 3, 4 yet.
Yeah, Marvel's got a few books that are right on the cusp there, but the ones that are by far my favorite that are going on right now.
Yeah, see, to me,
I don't have one.
Books, the reason why they're fun is because the writers actually care about the characters, and they're keeping them in their swim lane. You know, they're not all over God's green earth.
Man, he's lost a lot of weight since that picture was taken.
Yeah, really. He needs to bring that mustache back. I need more of that.
That is a killer stash. Have you ever thought about shaving out your beard? So you got one of those?
I actually shaved all this one time to where I had a goatee, and it just
I mean like that.
No.
Shave everything else and just keep that big Yui there.
It's not thick enough right through here. It's a little bit too thin for that.
Well, you could shave it however you want. You got that beard there. You could shave that and let it be thicker, you know.
I could.
It would be a look.
Hey, since he had to step away, should we be mean and talk Ghost Machine now?
Oh, that's cruel, because he's going to want to talk about that.
Well, hey, since he stepped away, we will throw this out right quick. I did pick up my facsimile edition for issue #1. I had to grab it, you know.
I made sure that we had it available for you.
Yep, I did have to grab it. We are getting close to Space Ghost coming to an end.
Oh, they're ending that?
Well, it's only going to be like 12 issues starting out. That's what Pepos designed it for.
And then we're moving right into Space Quest.
Yeah, then there's actually the crossover that's getting ready to gear up between Space Ghost and Johnny Quest.
Yeah, Space Quest.
And then this one just started, which this was a lot better. I was not expecting what we got in here.
You know what wasn't good? The ass artwork where the artist was so lazy he didn't even draw faces on some of the panels.
Yeah, I noticed that on
hate
that one
when they
panel.
do that.
Yeah, that was that was bad.
It was still a fun first issue. Story wise, it was solid. Art wise, it was all over the place. Weird.
I forget which book it was I looked at the other day, but there was a character on it. It's just like a little girl, and she had a nose and she had a mouth, but she had no eyes. It's like he just didn't draw them in.
She was born that way. Quit making fun of her.
No, I'm pretty sure she wasn't, because later on she had eyes.
Oh, good for her. It's a miracle.
Yeah, really. But yeah, you can, especially with the Space Quest getting ready to gear up, once that comes to an end,
yeah, that's true.
We'll definitely be able to flow over. And I'm trying to find that one page that Mark's talking about.
It's toward the end when Homeboy rolls in. It's going to be on the bottom left-hand corner. No,
he doesn't even have a face.
Turn farther to the back. It's your main character of the book. Keep going.
Well, I mean, this one right here that he even. Wait a minute, where's it? Where my
but they're aliens. That don't count.
Yeah.
Go close to I think it's the second to last page, bottom left-hand panel.
Yeah, your main character doesn't have a face here.
Yeah, and he's right there up close and everything.
Wow.
Yeah. But, I mean, you can definitely already see where we'll get the crossover between Herculoids and Space Ghost. I kind of...
like mugshot mode.
You know, because even if you go back to that cartoon that come out when I was a kid, there was a crossover between Space Ghost and Herculoids. So it's coming.
DC already did it great with the Future Quest crossover with all of them back in the day. The 12 issues they did with all the Hanna-Barbera characters.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm excited to see what Dynamite pulls together.
Are you implying that Alan doesn't have a face?
Alan has got a beautiful face. I just wish that I had that mustache that was on your little icon saver that you had.
Yeah, that was funny, dude. When you cut your camera off, your icon is not... You lost a lot of weight since then.
That's just how I look, man.
So, are you reading Hornsby and Halo?
Yeah, I read 100% of Ghost Machine.
This gets better with every issue.
It does. It still needs to get rocking and rolling, in my opinion.
I think. Oh crap! What is his name that they entered? They started to. I can picture him. I can't think of his name.
The big guy who looks like he's from Egypt.
Yeah, that dude right there. I think it's definitely going to pick up now that he's entered the arena.
Yeah, we're starting to get some. That's been my point of contention from the very beginning. Like they start out issue 1 giving us lore, like with the whole like exposition in the very beginning.
The adjudicator,
and then we've been kind of just spending some time twiddling our heels since then.
Yeah. Now, what Matt Posey just said, this right here. This entire issue was just freaking perfection from beginning to end.
Except that he didn't look like a manatee.
He didn't look like a manatee.
Issue number 4, Hyde Street.
Oh, Hyde Street has been freaking amazing. The matinee monster was awesome. I called that back when they gave us Ghost Machine issue 1. Like, we're getting Frankenstein, and then in Geiger, we've only seen him once, and I think it was like issue 6. When we see the White House and you see the custodian, the character that's been tracking down Junkyard Joe, he goes to the White House, and the president is President Griffin, and he's wrapped in bandages with glasses. And if y'all remember the Universal horror movies, Griffin is the name of the Invisible Man. And these IPs are public domain.
Yep.
I think we're getting some, they're really building out their versions of the Universal horror movies.
Now, I will say for me, because I have to share this with you in case you didn't see this, Mark, but a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, we were on the show, and maybe it was probably a month ago when they had the kind of introduction to the matinee horror You saw him in that last page or whatever.
The 2-page splash when Pranky
I got something for you,
Mr.
Josh.
X-Ray.
Yeah. So Alan calls him the Manatee Horror.
The I completely and totally read the whole thing wrong, and I called him the Manatee Monster.
So I promptly, since I'm on the retailer forum with Ghost Machine, I promptly let Ghost Machine know, and Ivan Rice was cracking up. He was like, the Manatee Horror. He's like, I have to draw that. So don't be surprised if we see that somewhere sometime.
That would be hilarious if he just squeezes that in somewhere.
Yeah, the Manatee Horror. I love it. But this whole issue of Hyde Street, I thought was fantastic. It like this guy's not as bad as the other people we've seen on Hyde Street. At least he feels more sympathetic. But even so, he did something terrible.
big red one.
That was fantastic. Oh my god.
You know, normally if somebody like Nick would have done that, I would have like just axed him from the stream. But you know, that one was too funny, so I'll just
You requested it. Yeah,
that was fantastic. I love that.
Are y'all talking books from last week or this week or both?
Actually, the past couple of weeks, because we had Matthew Rosenberg on last week.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, have you ever talked to him?
Mm-mm.
That dude is awesome.
Yeah.
In addition to writing great stories, he grew up in New York. Across the street from him was a 2-story building. The bottom story was a hamburger joint, and the top story was a comic book store.
Oh, God. You don't even ever have to leave your building.
Can you, like, his mom would let him cross the street to go there. And, like, 8 hours later, she'd be, like, calling the comic book store, like, send him home, will you?
That's very true.
But can you imagine? What a way to grow up.
Yeah,
no wonder he's so cool.
Where I live right now, it takes me less than 2 minutes to drive to the comic shop, which is pretty
awesome.
lucky.
Well, see, I'm lucky because Haven's actually on my way home from work, so I can just swing by there.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
wow,
I guarantee
Matt Posey, I know how much you like Blackest Night, so that is high praise.
Yeah, they've definitely set up the Matinee Monster to be the kind of like a hero of Hyde Street, because if you look at the scoreboard at the end of it, he's delivered no souls.
Nothing.
Now, I can guarantee that I picked up a comic book this week that nobody else picked up probably in the nation. Picked it up today.
I'm
mainly
curious.
because this is what I would look like if I was the Mummy.
You did buy that. You got Monsters on the Prowl off the back issue stand.
Yeah, you know, it's the weird stuff that I like.
Yeah, I got a lot of the Monsters on the Prowl are reprints of Tales to Astonish or Tales of Suspense.
Yeah.
Early issues before they became superhero ones. But I'm trying to finish the Tales to Astonish run. So I got a lot of cool monster issues still to go. I'm about 20 issues away from the 101 issue run.
Nice.
Most of them being the monster. I got like from 59 forward is when Hulk entered the title before he took it over. I got knocked all those out and some of the Ant and Wasp ones. But those monster issues are great. I do a show on with my buddy called Guess That Key, and I think it was like number 21, which is like the first proto Hulk before Hulk came out. And Tales to Astonish, there's a character named Hulk that they tried out in there. That when they reprinted it in Monsters on the Prowl, they changed his name from Hulk because by that time Hulk had been released. But in the original Tales book, it's still titled Hulk. It's pretty cool.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Now, and I know it just came out yesterday, but have y'all read Aquaman 3 yet?
Oh, of course. It was freaking amazing.
Somehow or other, because we've added more subs to that book, because we've been talking about it, I didn't get my copy because it went to a subscriber.
Well, there was 2 copies on the shelf when I was there earlier.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be the YouTube short tomorrow. I haven't read it yet, but you can go ahead and spoil it for me. Is he Darkseid incarnate?
I'm not telling you. Read the book.
Jesus, man.
I will tell you that this book is catching attention. You know, like the comic media outlets. Like Screen Rant was even putting posts up about it and stuff. And apparently, because of his new hydrokinesis powers, they were wanting to put it. It was in issue 2 when he did the. They call it blood bending, and they were likening it to the Last Airbender stuff.
Yeah.
Apparently, that has a huge, huge following. That Last Airbender stuff, and there's people all in the chats. And I put a comment on it on that post, and since yesterday, the comment has gotten over 500 reactions. Like people are into Aquaman again, thankfully.
I will tell you that again, for me, that's a book that kind of came out of nowhere. And I said, I'm interested in this book and I want to see what it starts like. I've always kind of liked the character of Aquaman, but they've never done anything worthwhile with him.
Whoa.
Not
whoa,
never, but they don't
whoa.
consistently do anything worthwhile with him,
Whoa.
right?
No, wait. Well, what define consistency? Because this guy's got errors. Like he's got like solid errors. Like in the 60s, corny but super fun. The 90s was rock and roll with the Peter David stuff. And let's not even get into Jeff Johns' run where it like redefined Aquaman, and that's the era that people consider made him cool. Like this dude's been rocking a beard and a hook hand since the early 90s. He's been cool, but for some reason that version never made it out to the general public. But the Jeff Johns run, which is like widely praised, like that's when they introduced the trench and Falcor and like a lot of the stuff you see in the movie that's right. It's like pulled from the Johns era stuff, but some really cool.
I like the Johns era stuff. I at the time I liked the Peter David stuff, but
yes,
it didn't hold up for me rereading it. I was like, I remember really liking this, but it didn't hold up. But then Aquaman, just like all the rest of DC's heroes, had kind of just gone silent for a long time.
He did. It's been a running joke on my channel because if you want to read Aquaman since like 2019. Titles with Aquaman in the title include the Black Label, Aquaman Andromeda, which was what's his name? Christian Ward did the art and Ron B wrote, but it's just a little mini series. An Aquaman Aquaman Flash Void Song, which was a 3-issue square bound. Like alien invaders are coming that are slowing down time, so let's get Flash. And who else? Aquaman, of course. So makes no sense, but it's Aquaman, so I was pulling it. And before that, you had Green Arrow Aquaman, that's the title. Green Arrow Aquaman, Deep Target.
Yes.
This story takes place on the freaking moon with alien dinosaurs. Because it's Aquaman, perfect. So that's how out of water that character has been, only making random appearances and back issues. They had that Chuck Brown did the little Aquaman miniseries that pushing Jackson Hyde to the front, which was really just a remnant of the 5G stuff.
Yep.
And the Black Manta miniseries that ran side by side just for a minute to tie it into Aquaman, which, it was better than nothing at the time. You had Jackson, Arthur, and Black Manta all working together to try to subdue these sleeper agents that were activating and figure out what was going on with that. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. You really had, like, if you're an Aquaman fan, you might have some fun with it. It wasn't going to pull no new readers, though.
But this story now is, I think the water bending sort of power, aquakinesis, is more suited for Aquaman.
Yes.
So much more suited for Aquaman. And I love that he's learning how to use it. Mm-hmm. And that means sometimes he might break rules. But he's doing interesting stuff. I also loved in issue number 2, and I loved it for kind of a bizarre reason. I don't know if you've been on when I've shared this, but the first comic books I ever bought was a grocery sack full of comic books at a yard sale, like old brown paper grocery sack, full of comics for $1. First comic book I ever read was X-Men 133. But in that pile of comics was Arion, Lord of Atlantis #2.
And he's back, baby.
With Jan Duursema's art. And I was like, holy smokes, this is really cool. And when they tease it, and then, wait, that's him in Aquaman, I was like, get out. This is awesome.
So Jeremy Adams is one of those writers that it doesn't matter what he's working on, buy the book. Because you might not be your favorite character, but you're about to love the story kind of thing. He's literally on the Jeff Johns trajectory. So they brought him in, and he did that book, Flashpoint Beyond, the follow-up to Flashpoint. He did it with Jeff Johns and Tim Sheridan, did it together. So they were new writers co-writing. But he did that. Then he immediately got put on Flash. Jeff Johns did Flash Rebirth. Then he got put on Green Lantern. Jeff Johns has the most iconic Green Lantern run ever. Now he got put on Aquaman. And now he's showing you this deep, rich DC history knowledge that he's pulling for new readers to explore and old readers to get excited about. It's literally Jeff Johns reincarnated.
It's awesome.
Zipper. And also there you go.
Now,
All right.
are you switching
Matt Posey
gears
has
a
a
bit? Are
question
you
for you.
reading One World Under Doom?
Hi.
There.
So Matt has a question for you, which I don't know how. This is going to be a great answer, Matt.
Justice League Unlimited.
All in,
Absolutely
the All-In
loving.
Special, and then Justice League Unlimited.
This goes back again to what Josh was talking about with the editorial. The continuity at DC it hasn't been in a place this good since back in early 2000s. This is how comics are supposed to be, where any book you pick up makes you want to read the next book. They're using Justice League Unlimited instead of trying to sell summer events, as you should. Let's get a groove going. Don't break it. They're taking that book and everything else that matters at DC right now is spinning out of the pages of Justice League Unlimited, and everything you pick up, if you're not, is pointing you back to it. I'm liking the ensemble cast. I'm liking the fact that we're getting all these characters that we wouldn't normally see and getting spin-offs for it, making those little mini series actually have a little bit more weight. Like The Question, we have a space station with the most powerful beings in the universe are on it. It needs a security guard. Renee Montoya, let's get her. Makes no sense unless you kind of bring it all together and tie it to the Challengers and the mystery surrounding them that ties into their own book, which is ridiculously good right now. But the fact that it's crafting all that while doing its own thing with the whole Inferno Society, I'm really digging. The pacing is really fast, so I kind of feel like I'd like to spend more time with some of the characters, but understanding the bigger picture we're rocking with, I'm kind of fine with it right now. But I'm loving it. Dan Moore's art is always a treat. Mark Waid doesn't normally ever let us down unless it's his most recent Shazam run, which was ass. But I'm really digging it. As someone I'm a big diehard Justice League fan, good, bad, or indifferent, it's one of those ones I'll always pick up. I'm happy to have one that is really so meaningful right now. I say it all the time that it's the backbone of the DC continuity right now.
Yeah.
One day it'll be a couple years before you see an absolute.
I don't know that it will be called Absolute Justice League, but the members of the Absolute Justice League are going to meet up, and it's going to be sooner than we want or sooner than we think.
And I posted.
There was a DC retailer roundtable last week with Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee, but a few other things came up. Do what? I
said hush.
Yes,
that's about to be huge. You're about to sell gangbusters of that book.
It's sold over. It has over 400,000 pre-orders from retailers.
That's going to go to at least this 5th or 6th print. That book's going to do crazy.
Yeah, it is going to be gangbusters. But they hinted pretty strongly that the characters from the Absolute Universe are going to band together and join up. So it will be essentially Absolute Justice League.
Yeah, initially Scott Snyder said he wanted to wait at least a year before he crossed them over, but they're already showing he's already backpedaled that. I'm sure they're getting orders from the higher up saying, nope, hurried up.
I posted an article today on our Discord channel that they've already said we're getting Absolute Dick Grayson this year. But they haven't said anything about Robin or Nightwing. So if Absolute Dick Grayson is coming soon, I mean, and they've already talking about the next expansion. So yeah, I think we're going to get Absolute Justice League before we know it.
Yeah, it's definitely coming, and it's coming soon. I will say, I have read retailer previews of Absolute Flash, Absolute Martian Manhunter, and Absolute Green Lantern. I thought Absolute Flash was awesome.
His costume, I really
liked it. Oh, the costume's terrible, but you don't see him in the costume in the first issue.
How you gonna run through hyper time in a crop top? I don't get it.
Yeah, the costume's awful, but you don't see him in the costume in the first issue. So the first issue was very, very good. It was very interesting, and the art was beautiful. Absolute.
I think his dad's going to be Captain Cold.
Doesn't seem to be.
I think so.
Have you read it yet? The preview? Okay, when you read it, you'll see why I say I don't think so.
His dad's going to be one of the rogues. I'm calling it now.
His dad's an interesting character in this for sure, but he's not Captain Cole or Commander Cole. Who is that?
Nugs.
Nugs. I like your tie.
He likes to be handsome when he's on stream.
Well, why not? He looks just like Alan.
I mean, I can see the resemblance, but you're not getting child support.
But anyway, so Absolute Martian Manhunter, by far the one I was least interested in. The art style looks weird. The art style reminds me more of the Skybound kind of house style.
Did you get to see a color version of the pages or the black and white ones they sent out?
Oh no, I've read the color version of the pages.
Okay.
And that makes a world of difference because color is extremely important in the book. And I will say, mechanically, they do something interesting, which I couldn't do because they sent it out as a PDF. But mechanically, the comic, when you hold the actual physical comic book in your hand, one of the pages at the end, you have to hold up to the light.
Oh, that's cool.
And you see something like through
You're gonna get to see the
paper.
Martian in his head kind of thing or something?
Something like that. You see it like through the paper.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting effect that they're taking advantage of the comic book medium in a unique way, and I love that. I'm absolutely here for it. The story was really good. The art was challenging for me because it's just not a style that I typically resonate well with. But the story was very interesting, and it got interesting, the more interesting the further it went. There was one point toward the end of it where he finally he thinks he's going nuts, but he finally kind of connects to this thing in his brain. And the thing in his brain reveals himself as the Mind Hunter, not Manhunter, the Mind Hunter.
No, that's cool.
And I thought
He's
that
more
was
of an entity than he is a Martian, right?
Yes, and it's interesting. It's interesting. I kind of get the impression he exists on a slightly different plane than this guy, but that they oversect inside this guy's brain.
It's gonna be funny if he turns out to be a parasite and our human protagonist only has a limited time of operating with him before he dies and has to find another mind.
That would be interesting. I could see that.
That would be cool.
That way you don't get too attached to that, but you get
Yeah,
fresh
you
stories
get
all the time.
you get a cool like story dynamic if you come to the Martian comes to like the host.
Yeah.
And he knows that ultimately he has to leave him dead.
Yeah, that is very interesting. Absolute Green Lantern was freaking weird.
Yeah, it's supposed to be sci-fi cosmic oddity kind of thing.
It's 100% that, but you meet the characters and you meet three of the major characters pretty quickly.
John, Hal, and Joe.
Yeah, and Hal is like terrified. And it's weird. It's weird.
Fear, huh? Fear.
It was compelling because of the way that it ended, but essentially he can't control what's happening, and when he reacts with fear, bad things happen to people.
Are they going to parallax him early on?
Maybe. It kind of felt like it was going that way, except I think the story is going to be him learning to control it and figuring out what to do. But he's got this real powerful guilt that he's going to be carrying with him because he does some pretty awful things. Not intentionally, and he doesn't know how to stop them from happening, but he's the cause. It's an interesting book. I expected in order that I would like them Flash, Green Lantern, and Martian Manhunter. In reality, I think I like them in order: Flash, Martian Manhunter, Green Lantern.
I'm excited for them. I got some reservations, but I'm excited.
It's interesting takes on all of them, I have to say. But yeah, I think an absolute Justice League is coming sooner rather than later. They pretty much acknowledged that the characters are coming together.
Well, that kind of goes right back to what Alan was talking about with Superman.
Yes. Yeah. You still with us, Alan?
Yeah, I was looking to see. I was trying to find where they had talked about that next expansion of Absolute, but I can't find where I saw that at.
Did y'all read the Lex Luthor, Superman Lex Luthor one shot from the other week?
I did not. Should I have?
Yeah, so like in terms of the Absolute universe being present in like the main DC universe, you have the DC All-In special where it was created, and then they got a brief reading of this of what they called the Alpha World, and they named it the Else World outside of time and space. They know it's there; they have no way of accessing it.
Yep.
That's where Booster Gold got lost to. That's where they showed us the Darkseid's Legion of Superheroes.
Are they going to pick that Booster Gold thread back up?
Well, the last thing we saw was him getting like the Legion coming down on him. And then if you fast forward through the Superman run, Lex didn't have his memories and stuff. And that Lex Luthor special was a story about memories. And it was what got Lex's memories back. Like in that most recent issue of Superman, Lex has his memories back. And what had happened was Mr. Terrific came to Superman explaining that before Lex lost his memories, he was working with Lex trying to get some technology to try to access that world, because even like they haven't forgotten about Booster or that world. And it was a cool little angle that they took with it, with like Michael being a good guy and like he approaches the world a certain way. So he was working with Lex, who is like a polar opposite mind, who looks at things and approaches problems from a different angle that he's not capable of. So they were hoping to crack something, and Lex was almost there with him. So Superman brought that information to Lex, who didn't want his memories back because he was able to read about who he was and he didn't like who he was. He was afraid to be that person.
Oh, that's cool.
That sounds compelling.
Yeah, that's how like Superman's been rocking. It was really good, and ultimately it was just it was such a good story on what they tied the whole memory thing to, and the way that they revealed his memories were back. I really recommend going back and reading. It's just a one shot. It's really good. But at the end of the story, ultimately he chooses to get his memories back. And in the very next page, Superman's getting a call from Mr. Terrific. Hey, I don't know what you said to him, but I appreciate it. The sonar, radar, whatever's done, we're going to be reaching out to the Earth as soon as possible, or at the Elseworld as soon as possible. And then fast forward to the next issue of Superman, the Legion's here.
Yeah.
So those are like the three steps in the main continuity: is the All-In special, the Lex Luthor one shot, and then the Superman book that he held up.
Okay, I definitely need to read the one shot then. But I did also
just go back to editorial. That is so sharply done. Oh my god.
Yeah, and see, it's fun to just get to play the string game. So, like in my mind, I'm keeping tabs on this stuff, reading across the board. All right, Absolute showed up here, came into play here, and then it's here. But it was a beautiful story, man. It really was.
Well, they've already said that Absolute Wonder Woman will be who actually is the first one to discover there's other heroes and start tracking them down. So I'm wondering how they're going to tie that in, because I have got all 5 issues. No, I've only got 4 issues at home. For some reason, I can't find issue number 3, and I still have not read them yet.
Of what? Of what?
Of Absolute Wonder Woman.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
dude, it is so freaking good.
Somehow I missed issue 3.
No,
so I need to try to track that down so I can knock them out right quick.
Hour past your bedtime. No, look at me. 1, 2. What are you going to watch on your TV? No. Hey, that doesn't work, man. No. I can ask Monkey. Yeah. No? All right. I'll pick. No. All right. You got it.
I wanted to laugh so bad.
I did too. I like the counting. It's been a while since somebody counted at me like that, and I still like you hear the dad voice, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, he's pausing. He spun around on one foot and looked back up. The counting works for him.
It worked for me too growing up because I
Until
knew
it
my dad
doesn't.
meant business.
Yeah.
But it never really worked on me, but I knew that when they started counting, they meant business, but I just didn't care for some reason.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the business is.
Yeah.
It's because you're stubborn, Alan.
Well, I mean, honestly, when I was a kid, getting sent to my room was like the greatest treat ever because I had all my comic books, my TV, my Atari. You know, I had
I didn't
everything
have
I
an
needed.
Atari or a TV, but I did have my comics and my G.I. Joes and my Star Wars figures. So yeah, getting sent to my room wasn't exactly punishment, but that's not usually what I got. I got a belt to the butt. Yeah. And
yeah, if they ever have to go time out for something, you have to specify it. Go to your room, no toys, no books. You know what? Get on your bed. Just stay on your bed.
sit on your hands.
Yeah. And then they get in their bed and they have like Godzilla plushies and stuff, and like it's just there's no escaping it.
But yeah, going back real quick to Justice League, and I think G.I. Joe. I love what Larry Hama is doing. I love what he has done, and he's certainly created a thing. I hope that with the Energon Universe G.I. Joe title, that they kind of follow more of what Justice League is doing right now, where they take advantage of different teams with different skill sets to accomplish different missions. I love the way they're handling that in Justice League. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's cool with Red Tornado calling out the orders and the people's names and the locations. Go.
See, and I love him being the AI that runs Watchtower.
I like him running Watchtower, but I like my mans to have a body.
I mean, if they don't give him a body anytime soon and they keep him the way he is, I'm happy with it. Now, did you read, which I mean, we can't see anything.
I don't know, Alan. You never know when you need a robot that can create a tornado. I mean, you just never know.
Well, I mean, I can just have the Flash run around in circles really fast.
Yeah, but he's not a robot. What if you need a robot to do it? Red Tornado serves a very specific purpose, and if we need that purpose, we need him. You need a robot to make a windstorm.
Did you read Batman Full Moon?
No, I was waiting on it all to come out, and then I'll think about reading it on the app.
I
read issue
honestly,
1.
It was good. I liked it, but I think the last issue 4, kind of had a little bit of a cop-out ending.
Did Batman turn into a wolf at any point in it?
Yeah.
I'm out. Not interested.
Well,
it's too cliche. Like, show me Batman having to deal with a werewolf proper. That's interesting.
Well, see, that was just
Batman turned into a wolf. That's just a wolf fight.
He is dealing with a wolf, and he gets bit during the fight.
In issue 1, yeah.
Yeah, and then he does end up turning into a wolf, and then this big thing. Constantine was running around. I wished he'd have been a little bit more of a bigger character in it. You can definitely tell that the only reason why Zatanna is helping Bruce is because she's in love with him.
I don't like that. She's supposed to be in love with Constantine. They're supposed to hate being in love with each other.
Yeah, so it was different. It was a fun read, but the way they ended it and cured Bruce, I was kind of whatever. It would have been more impactful if Bruce cured himself. I'll just put it.
I think Rodney Barnes is a fantastic writer, and his love and passion for the horror genre shows big time.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
I confess my favorite thing about that book, like it was an okay read. It was all right. But I love those glow-in-the-dark covers.
Yeah, they're so well
awesome.
done. You turn off the lights and they're bright. They're not just there. They're like crisp, detailed.
But it's not just the brightness, but the actual art of them is brilliantly done. I love those glow-in-the-dark covers. For me, if I want to read a Batman miniseries that grabs my attention, it's Batman Dark Patterns.
Oh yeah, Dan Waters. And then Hayden Sherman is on the art for that one. The same guy who's doing Absolute Wonder Woman. I haven't started that one yet. I heard good things about issue 1 and 2. I heard issue 3 was weird as hell. Then I heard issue 4 was really good.
Issue 3 was definitely weird, but the weirdness was finding out who the antagonist is and how the antagonist is. And it's kind of critical. It's weird, but you find out and you're like, that is simultaneously awful, and I feel bad for the guy.
Weird
Ouch.
don't mean bad. It just means weird, you know?
Yeah.
Well, no, weird meant bad in this issue of Cruel Kingdom.
I haven't read that one yet. Tell me
What is
about it.
that? It's a part of the EC Comics line.
Oh, I forgot that they're redoing all those.
Yeah,
Epitaphs from the Abyss, Cruel Universe. Cruel Kingdom is
from the
supposed to
Abyss
be
has
the
been
fantasy version of it, but the first issue of it had just as much sci-fi in it as it did fantasy, which kind of bugged me.
Yeah, this one though, it was like they really tried to lean into the weird factor.
Okay.
And I mean, they leaned into it even harder than what they should have, and it kind of fell flat. When you read it, you're going to understand what I'm talking about. King Arthur does not die this way.
Okay.
Just wait. I mean, it's kind of that whole King Arthur story is. It would have been fine if they would have just kept it strange, but they had to lean too hard into the weird.
Okay.
So yeah, I was a little disappointed in this issue, but I mean, still, I'm enjoying EC overall.
I have been enjoying those overall too. Given the anthology nature of those stories, some are going to be better than others.
Yeah,
for sure. But no, I've been enjoying those too.
Now, one of my favorite moments that happened was in this particular book right here.
Oh yeah, that was great. I'm loving Detective.
When Damien takes over the prison, and
that's one of the first issues where I haven't hated Damien.
And where Oracle's like basically like, well, he took over the prison and he's taking hostages, and Batman's just kind of standing there and starts smiling like, "That's my boy."
My boy.
Yeah, that was just, that right there made this entire book for me.
Yeah. I like the fact that when Bruce went in there and Damien's like, "I'm sorry, I had to X, Y, and Z. I couldn't just." He's like, "I'm proud of you."
Yep. Yeah. The Tom Taylor has done a lot better job than what I thought he was going to do writing a dark story.
I told you.
Just writing a good story. Tom Taylor, I'll swear by on an Elseworld title, but I dropped Nightwing, that sounds crazy, I know, because it was so like widely praised. I hung in there through all of Son of Kal-El because I'm Superman biased, but it wasn't good. It just got long in the tooth. They could have done it in half the issues, kind of thing. So his ongoing stuff.
Are you reading Nightwing again?
Mm-mm.
Oh,
Nightwing.
Dan Waters is freaking killing it on Nightwing. Nightwing feels like Daredevil.
Yeah, I just don't care about Nightwing. It's
and
nothing against Dan Waters. It's nothing against the character. What it is like it's that greater continuity kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like I'm not pulling dark patterns. I'm not pulling Nightwing. Like I get so much stuff that I have to, like the person said earlier in the chat, like between $3.99 to $7.99 a book, you have to be choosy, and then it's a time constraint for me. I'm pulling a stack like this tall every week, so I just.
Oh, I know the feeling. Definitely know the feeling. I told somebody today that most people go in and they look at the sign-up sheet to see what they want to sign up for. I go in to look at the sign-up sheet to see what Josh has signed me up for.
That's the way it's done.
Now I'll give him credit where credit is due. He's very good. He knows what I like.
It's the rare occasion when you seem like, why did you sign me up for this? And I'm like, just read it, and then you read it, and you're like, oh
yeah, yeah. Hey, because I'm not paying attention. One day I've got this book called The Hunger and the Dusk in my box. And I'm like, what the hell is this? What has Josh signed me up for now? Where the hell is the second issue at? I need it.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
And then Moon Knight, Fist of Khonshu. Him and the old bird, their relationship just gets better and better and better.
Really does.
Is it back to being Mark Spector again?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was all a very well executed run by Jed MacKay. Killing off Mark Spector, the stories without Mark Spector, the resurrection of Mark Spector, and all of the things that happened in there to make that happen. Jed MacKay has done a phenomenal job with this book. Absolutely stellar. And yeah, he's doing some interesting relationship stuff too between him and Tigra, between him and Khonshu, between him and Badir and all these other folks. Really interesting stuff. The characters that he has populated around Moon Knight, which has always been one of Moon Knight's kind of Achilles heels, right? He used to have Frenchie and Marlene back in the day, but that was about it. And they were okay. Frenchie was obviously a poor man's
Alfred,
and he never struck me as like a really believable character. Like I never loved Frenchie like I love Alfred, right? And Marlene, so she was all right. But now he's got she was. But now he's got a genuine, honest to goodness cast of characters around him that I like that guy, and I like that guy, and I like her, and I like her, and I like him. I like 8-Ball, for crying out loud. One of the dumbest villains in the history of comic books. He's made him like somebody you feel something about.
Yeah, he's done a very good job at taking like random throwaway characters and making you care about them. I mean, if before Jed McKay, if you would have ever told me that I would actually care about the relationship between Moon Knight and Tigra, I'd have been like, dude, you're batshit crazy. I'm never going to care about that relationship.
Yeah.
But now it's like, okay, did they? I got to know. Are they getting together? What's happening? Yeah, I mean, he's done a really good job.
I will say the art in that issue there it feels like a step down. It's not as good as previous issues, and I don't know what it was. It was very weird.
Did they have a fill-in artist for the week?
I think it was the same guy.
Really? I know the last issue when he fought
Fairchild.
Yeah, Fairchild. I want to call him the Asgardian farm boy. But yeah, I know the art on that was great. This one did seem kind of rushed compared to what it has been.
Very much so. Yeah.
But yeah,
the story is really good, and I like where it's shaping up. I will say
anime style.
Yeah, very much so.
I'm guessing you haven't read. You're not reading Moon Knight, are you?
Just Hulk and Ghost Rider and the Hell Hunters things, but I'm behind on that.
Yeah. Hell Hunters is very good. You'll enjoy that.
I like this one a lot because I only picked it up for Ghost Rider for Uncle Sal.
Yeah,
me some Uncle Sal.
Yeah, it's great. But Moon Knight, there's this new guy in town, criminal kingpin kind of a guy, big, jacked, long blonde hair, looks like a Thor wannabe, but he comes from humble origins. He's just a farm kid, all this kind of stuff, right?
From Asgard.
Well, it turns out after Moon Knight challenges him to a fight, like you, me, winner takes all kind of a thing. And Moon Knight is like going all out. And then this dude just puts a whooping on him. And he's like, yeah, he's laying here beat up, bloody, battered, disabled, injured Moon Knight. And he's like, yeah, I told you I was a farm boy, and I told you the truth. I just didn't say where the farm was.
Did he reveal where it was?
It's outside of Asgard.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And then there was talk about don't kill Moon Knight because he'll just be reborn. He'll be resurrected because that's Khonshu's thing. Don't kill him. Just leave him completely and totally incapacitated and never let him heal.
Mm.
And you're like,
great idea.
Oh, that is vicious. That was like that thought process I had never thought of before.
Like the movie The Old Guards, where with Charlize Theron, where they're all immortals. They take the girl and they just tie her up, put her in the box, and throw her in the ocean.
Yeah,
and she could drown and just wake right back up and drown again for as long as she's down there.
Yeah, miserable. But no, Moon Knight has been so very, very good. Fantastic stuff.
And then really Ryan North once again kills it on Fantastic Four.
His Fantastic Four is so much fun. It's like you talked about with comics. It's interesting, it's poignant, it's got character development, and it's fun. And I am never going to get tired of seeing that picture.
It's surprising. It kind of scares me and shocks me every time it pops on the screen.
I'm really greatly amused by that. That is fantastic.
But I mean, as far as this issue of Fantastic Four was concerned, I liked the little bit of a callback about when they meet up with She-Hulk and they're kind of having lunch with her and stuff, and they're talking about she makes a comment about being on the team, and they're like, "Oh, you'll always be on the team."
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of a little bit of a callback to when she was a member of the Fantastic Four.
Yep.
You know, I mean, it was just, once again, it was a fun issue, and I like how, yes, Doom has taken over everything, and they're kind of at a point right now where, number one, there's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah.
And number two, it's almost like the way this has been written, it's like, do you really and truly want to do anything about it? You know that it's coming, but it's just, I mean, he's done a really good job with the One World Under Doom stuff. I was a little let down with Doom Academy 1, but that was not the writer or the artist's fault. That was my fault because I did not know what I was getting into. I did not, because I never read Strange Academy or anything like that.
I was about to ask because I didn't think you had.
Yeah, I mean, when I read One World Under Doom, Doom Academy, I'm expecting that, that I'm not expecting a bunch of kids in school. And I mean, for what it was good, but for what I was expecting, it's not what I was expecting.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Did you read Blade Forger?
No, I did not. I didn't even get a copy of it. I did the short and set the copy of it down, and it sold out before I could get it.
Well, it's an interesting book. I'm going to have to let you. I'll bring my copy so you can read it because it's not what I was expecting, and sometimes your expectation colors whether how much you like a thing, right?
Yeah,
it's not the thing's fault. You just have an expectation that might not have been based on reality. I'm going to take him off here until he comes back because then we'll pop him back on. Oh, he's back.
Oh,
perfect timing.
No, it was perfect.
So literally, like next week, I mean, man, I've got some good reading ahead of me. I picked up Aquaman 3 today, Absolute Superman 5.
Absolute Superman 5. Have you read it yet, Mark?
Oh, hell yeah. Best issue yet.
Oh my God, it's so good. It's it makes an event that we all know happens, right? It's fundamental to the character of Superman. It makes that event really in your face and poignant, and
it's intense because you don't know how it's going to play out. Like,
right?
It's a familiar event, but we don't know, is anyone going to make it? How many people are going to make it? And it plays out completely different than I assumed. After the last issue, I was trying to piece it together, what could happen, speculate on the next issue, and definitely played out differently.
With a lot of possibilities still on the table.
Really?
Right? Yes. It plays out. They kind of ping pong you back and forth in the issue and the predecessor issues where you think, okay, this is what happens, and this is the people who make it out. Well, this is what happens, and these are the people who make it out. And in this issue, even as you get to the end of it, it goes one direction, but it leaves open the possibility for so much more. It was really, really well executed. And once again, the artwork is just stunning.
Yeah, I actually took tomorrow off, so I'll be reading a lot of my stuff actually tomorrow afternoon when we get home. We got stuff we're doing tomorrow. But Alien Presidio 3 and 4. Y'all know I love my Alien comic books.
I do.
Yeah. Flash Gordon 7, one of the most underrated books out right now. Flash Gordon has been so freaking good.
Hey, who's writing that?
That would be a man named Jeremy Adams.
Doesn't matter what he writes, just get it.
Yep. World War V, issue 7? I think I've heard of this dude too, Matthew Rosenberg.
Yeah, I've heard of that guy.
Yeah, I think Kid might have. Geiger 12, and I really and truly can't wait to read Redcoat 10 to see how they do Annie Oakley.
So good. And Geiger 12, sets up a really interesting dynamic
Yeah.
between her and him, but it also sets up um, a twist. It looks pretty clear that there's ulterior motives at play there in Geiger 12. Very interesting. But Redcoat, introduction of Annie Oakley, what a phenomenal issue.
Both of these were some of my favorite issues of the run so far. This was special.
It
Okay,
really
so
was.
is that better than the Johnny Appleseed issue?
Yes.
Yes.
Really?
Yes. So
the Johnny
far,
Appleseed issue was great. This is better.
This is because what this does differently than the Johnny Appleseed issue was just fun. What this does is this illuminates a different personality side of Simon that we haven't gotten to see yet. Much like what they did with issue 7, the final Einstein issue when he goes to his deathbed. But that's like the farthest we've seen Simon so far outside of the Blizzard storyline. But that because like, you know, Simon, the way that they kind of showed him in the 80-page Giant, he wasn't a bumbling buffoon. He's a jerk, sure. And the way that he was perceived in the Blizzard, did y'all read that little miniseries they did in the Image 30th, whatever? Like he's the guy that had taken out that beast before for the Founding Fathers. You know, they called him at the end, like, we need you to get it again. No, I've already done it once. I'm not doing it again. So he's ridiculously capable. Issue 1 through 6 of Redcoat, he's Jack Sparrow falling upward. You know, he's a bumbling buffoon. He's a reluctant hero, you know, just stumbles upon success. But with that Einstein issue, it showed us a different side of Simon and maybe like a key moment in his life that like where he changes as a person. You know, he's
character growth. Yes.
Yeah. And that's what we got in this as well. We got to see spotlight on a side of his actual humanity that he's not just this one thing. There's more to this character. And now we're seeing little signs of it. This, man, it read so good. It read so smooth. She was handled so well.
So well. I thought she was going to come off as cartoonish, and she didn't at all. She was amazing.
Pick up that gun. I can't. Simon! And she just didn't relent. She's like, didn't give him an out. It was cool.
She was very Yoda.
Yeah.
In the coolest possible way, and I dug it. You know, Annie Oakley was spectacularly handled. That particular issue, you do see a lot of character growth and character development, which I really love. And on Geiger,
a big tease at the end as well. I've been waiting on him to pop back up since they teased him in the Ghost Machine #1.
I think everybody and their brother's waiting on the Northerner at this point.
Yeah,
y'all got to be talking. I hadn't read it yet, but y'all got to be talking about him.
Yeah.
He is the Snake Eyes of this universe that we all want to know more about.
We're like waiting on this Union soldier with future boots and Mac 11s to show up for like 10 months now.
Like, yes, we want to know more about this guy, and they've been just giving us little hints and little clues and just dropping little things, but I'm very interested in meeting him at last. And Geiger 12, what a phenomenal issue that was. You talk about a character learning control and learning how to deal with things, and then you get this not nice but mentory kind of relationship going on, and then there's
Ashley Arden.
But there's definitely some ulterior motive there, and there's definitely something else lurking in the back of that. And so I'm very curious to see how that turns out.
You know, it's I don't know if it's just it's kind of like I guess it's just like a writing trope at this point, but Geiger is very one-sided too. You know, he's just a broken man. It's not that he's one-sided, I got nothing to live for kind of thing, because he's carrying around the loss of his he's carrying around the loss of his family, blames himself, the things that he did, thinking he was fighting to keep them alive when they had been dead for who knows how long. And so we've only seen glimpses of him getting to be anything other than that. And it's just extreme moments of emotion, you know, saving the kids in that one issue kind of thing. So we're finally at a place, technically, what is that, 18 issues in, where they're saying, hey, all this baggage, it's time for us to address it. You're going to have to do something about it. And so I'm interested to see what kind of shifting character that he's about to take, because he's about to undergo dealing with all this stuff, the loss of his parents, the world that he's living in, everything that he pushes to the back of his mind, just to get on with the next day. Because the only thing that's moving forward has been Nate the Knight just saying, let's go. Other than that, he just wander around aimlessly with no care or concern.
I will say the Hillborn.
Oh, they got it.
I want to play an RPG set in that world before this event happens, where you have to deal with them as like the threat.
Ashley was slick with it. I see what she's doing. It's pretty obvious that she's just trying to absorb more power. That's what she's doing. But that was slick. She's like, I'm gonna bring a nuke over to the neighbor's house and just set it off. That's ultimately what she did. She brought a volatile bomb to the neighbor's house and blew it up to take the power out of it.
Now, do y'all think that they're setting up Ashley Arden to be some type of love interest?
Nope.
Okay, because I haven't read the issue yet, so I don't know.
Yeah, what would be the opposite of that?
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, is she gonna be
she's a snake in the grass, my man. She's a snake in the grass.
Good.
Yeah. Ulterior motives all day long.
Yeah, big reveal at the end too. What she's actually up to. Yeah,
and you'll be like,
and what's perfect is the who's who page that comes along with this issue is perfectly timed. They put time perfect for the issue so that you don't necessarily have to go back and grab old issues. And let me go look at that again, because it's been 2 years since that issue came out, kind of thing, or that was months ago. No, there's a who's who's page right here, so you get everything you need to refresh your memory.
These Ghost Machine guys might just know what they're doing. These kids might have a future in comics.
Yeah, they might.
Holy smokes. Yeah, there's not been a bad Ghost Machine book. I mean, not one.
I think the weakest
I thought Hornsby and Halo was going to be bad, but it's not bad. They're not all home runs, but
I think it's going to be a flop.
It's a single.
Yeah, I'm not speaking to the quality of the book, but just performance and popularity. I don't see that book as being like that works with the Super Sons, because they're connected to such big IPs that people will get them. But I don't see a lot of people going out and getting that. And I've already know a lot of people that have dropped it because they just weren't feeling it, kind of thing. But and I don't hear a lot of people talking about the Rockefellers, but I love that one.
No, the Rockefellers have been great.
Mm-hmm.
So my thing was that whole Ghost Machine special that they did, that one shot.
Mm-hmm.
It did Rook and Hornsby and Halo no favors whatsoever.
Agreed.
Rook turns out to be absolutely phenomenal. There was nothing in that one shot that grabbed me about either one of their stories.
Oh, I was all in for Rook off that preview thing.
See, I didn't feel like it really did anything for me, but when the book itself came out, I fell in love with it. I thought it was great.
It's a solid 9 out of 10 6-issue story.
And Hornsby and Halo has been more fun, lighthearted than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, even when an entire cemetery of zombies that just want some bling bling are chasing you, it's still drawn in a way you're like, this is for kids.
Well, I mean, if they steal my G.I. Joe number one, I'm coming back after them.
I'm not digging it. I'm liking, again, I'm a lore hound. You know what I mean? I want lore, and there's just been so much time ignoring the lore in that book. And what, we're 4 issues in? And in that Ghost Machine one shot, that stupid waste of a preview where they're just at a baseball game being a good sportsmanship and a bad sportsmanship, they still tease the guy out in the van watching him, which when I say that out loud, it sounds creepy. But he's clearly from heaven or hell, like monitoring an angel and a demon. So they tease lore in that. And then issue 2 had no lore. Issue 3 had no lore. And like, come on, guys. Like, no one cares about these little kids going to school. No one cares about these little kids arguing with each other, fighting with the gang. And no, man, give us what's special about them. Like, a little bit more at a time, kind of thing. That's been my only complaint with it.
Well, maybe we'll get that with the adjudicator showing up.
Yeah, for certain. Like so much so that on issue 4, we've already seen him transform full on into angel and devil.
Yep.
But in issue 4, they just have transform him. Like, oh my gosh, I got half of a wing. Look at that. Like, bro, we've already gone full on. Why are we doing half on now? It's just weird pacing, in my opinion. But it's one of those things. Once we get there, you can't undo it. You know, once you do it, you can't undo introducing lore. So I'm hoping once we get there, it should be good.
Yeah.
Smooth sailing for me, at least. From
I think the audience for that book is clearly intended to be different. I think it's aimed at a younger set. And so I think they're purposefully slow rolling some of those aspects of it.
I just don't think they have the marketing to do that yet, though.
I agree with that. I think I would no younger set are interested in it in my shop.
Well, what I was going to do was I was going to wait until the first arc completes, and then I was going to pass it off on Bug and say, all right, you're going to sit here and read this entire arc and tell me what you think. Because, I mean,
that's a good idea.
How old is Bug?
She's 14.
Oh, that'd be perfect. Yeah, she'll probably love it.
Yeah, and I can get
He's going to be going grave robbing by the weekend. Great idea.
Please. Now, that is one 14-year-old that she will be brutally honest when it comes to
yes, she will.
Her comic books and just her books. Because, I mean, she reads like no other 14-year-old I've ever seen. But she will be brutally honest about it. And that's why I'm kind of waiting for that first arc. Oh, crap. Who was it? Was it Tom Taylor that during that one miniseries he killed Scarlet Witch at like the end of the first issue, or end of the?
I know which one you're talking about. Absolute Fantasy or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Marvel Blood.
Oh, with Carrie Andrews on the art.
Yes. Yeah, that's the one.
I cannot remember who it was for the life of me that wrote that book.
Well, she threw that one across the room.
Yeah, it was somebody that we all like. But the second she saw Scarlet Witch die, she literally put the book down and she will not read anything by that writer ever again. She's done. She was done. And that's going to drive me crazy now.
It was just Carrie Andrews, or Kari Andrews, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that's right. I love those 70s style fantasy covers on that series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was Kari Andrews.
Those were brilliant. But going back to Rocket Fellers, I think Rocket Fellers is also clearly intended for a younger audience.
I don't know. I feel like they play both sides of the fence with that one.
They do. I think it's like a YA audience, though. It's not. It's not children, but it's definitely not like the 45-year-olds and 50-year-olds. I think they're aiming at the like 15 to 25.
They got a damn good villain. Damn good villain.
Everything about it. The first issue of that book hit a lot harder than I expected it to.
Dude, that splash page that Francis Manifold likes to do, putting the title in the story as part of it. I'm like, yes.
It was just brilliantly executed, and I have really enjoyed that series. The whole helicopter flight in the last issue.
Oh, yeah. He should have put his hands on her.
No, he won't do it again. It was brilliant. It's just really well done. So
I like how this is the little things too, like being able to contact his brother back in the future and stuff, and having to see him missing out on brother getting married, having like a kid on the way, even, and little stuff like that. And the villain rollout is fantastic. I can't remember the name of that villain for the life of me, but seeing how like it's like they're having to like rejuvenate after like going out on hunts and stuff, and that scrotum eyeball thing that they took, the MacGuffin in the first issue, seemed like there's a whole entity part of it and everything.
Scrotum eyeball.
Yeah, it's a scrotum eye. It had pubes.
It will be referred to that from here on out.
The scrotum for like 4 months now. I call it like I see it.
It's a horrible name, but I know exactly why you're calling it that.
Yeah, it looks like a scrotum with an eyeball. Oh my. Hey, look at this scrotum. It looks back at you.
What a horrible view. What a horrible view. No, not that way. Not that way. That's even worse.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, Lord have mercy. But yeah, it's I'm loving what Ghost Machine is doing. I'm loving what DC's doing right now. I'm reading more DC than I am Marvel, and that's
I think
the first
everyone
time in
is.
my life I've ever been able to say that.
This character
Yes,
is
her.
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I love that they're still unraveling what the actual mystery is. Like,
Yeah.
what are the details and why and how?
Yeah, why did he take the scrotum eye? What does the scrotum eye do?
It's like an Indiana Jones ride, Temple
Yeah.
of the Scrotum Eye.
What about that 2-page splash we got in issue 2?
Oh, with all those
that was
Easter eggs
great.
in there. Yes.
The way they tied it all together.
Yeah.
I
no,
can't
it's
remember the
brilliant.
wording, but like we looked into the 4 known universes for him and we haven't found them yet. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
there they are.
Yeah, that was a nice little payoff for everybody who's paying attention to all their stuff.
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
But it's a great time for comics. There's some seriously wonderful comics happening right now. And
Yeah,
I will
this
say, I
is
think
the,
it's next week or the week after. I think it's next week. FOC through the past 2 weeks has been absolutely brutal, which means that, or the past 3 weeks, which means next week and the week after are going to be huge comic weeks. Just absolutely massive comics weeks. I think Absolute Martian Manhunter is next week.
Batman is next week.
Yep. Absolute Martian Manhunter too, I think.
Oh,
Absolute Flash is next
Comics,
week.
Nightwing, Flash, World's Finest, Titans, Batman and Robin, New Gods, Catwoman, Zatanna, The Question. That's just
How
the
is that
DC stuff.
Zatanna
And
book?
that's just DC.
Yeah, they're claiming that issue 2 of the Last Days of Lex Luthor will finally be dropping.
Oh, that's
Mark
only been
Waid
like 10 months.
Brian Hitch. Yeah, now we know why it got delayed.
Yeah. Yep.
How is the Zatanna book? I haven't read it.
It was fine. Wasn't nothing special. Jamal Campbell is the only special aspect. Jamal Campbell's art is fantastic. Always.
Yep.
Jamal Campbell's writing it too. I didn't know Jamal Campbell's a writer, and after reading issue 1 of Zatanna, I still wouldn't assume he's a writer. But it's a Zatanna book. I love Zatanna, but one of my biggest pet peeves in my life when it comes to comic books is her backwards talk.
Yes.
I absolutely hate it. It's the worst little gimmick in all of comic books. All you have to do is put an asterisk by the letters, and the first time she does it, editor's note, spoken backwards. And then after that, every time she has spell, just do the font differently. There's no reason to write words backwards in a book.
A letterer could do that and convey the same idea without making it a chore to read. I agree.
Yeah, it's ridiculous that backwards talk.
We need to get Justin Birch to redo the comic book for us.
That's right.
I mean, Challengers of the Unknown issue 4 comes out as well. I don't know if y'all are reading that, but it makes no sense how good it is.
Challengers of the Unknown and the Atom Project.
I'm loving both of them.
We're both
Challengers is exceptional.
Both been very good. Yeah. Like I said, I'm reading books that I would have laughed in your face a year ago if you told me I'd be interested.
Because you need this continuity, my man.
Yes.
Like, we got to go see what these D-stones are. And the fact that they took the Challengers of the Unknown, this team that have this common bond of a near-death experience together in the 1960s, and they took the concept, of Darkseid is practically the physical manifestation of death inside the DC universe. What's up, Beans?
King Beans, man. What's happening?
And they experienced a near-death experience that connects them with Darkseid. And now that Darkseid's gone, something's different with them. I'm like, dude, that is so freaking smart.
That is so smart. And that's the kind of thing that DC editorial is doing right now that nobody else is. Maybe the Ghost Machine guys.
They're doing a lot.
I would love to get some DC editorial folks on here to talk to them. I would love that. I'm going to have to make that happen.
I'll be talking to Jeremy Adams this time next week. I'll ask him for somebody's number.
Sweet. Are you talking to him on air, I'm guessing?
What?
You're talking to him on air?
On air? Yeah.
Sweet.
It'll be the third time having him on.
Alan, you have to pop
I
in
do
the chat where
DC
people can find him.
Yeah, I do the DC deep dive. My co-host on Sundays, we do content on his channel also called the DC deep dive, and I'll be doing. We do that over there. My channel, I don't really have creators on. Like I've had like the Ghost Machine guys on. I had the Miranda brothers on last week because I freaking love the Miranda brothers. We live.
So did you read Blade Forger?
Of course, I read Blade Forger.
All right, because I was telling Alan earlier, I wasn't sure what to expect from it, and I think my expectations were different from what the book is. So I didn't know if the book wasn't good or if I just had mismatched expectations that bugged me.
I had a very unique reading experience, as a handful of people did that were able to get their hands on the New York Comic-Con preview, because the New York Comic-Con preview has stuff in the back that's not in issue 1. So I started issue 1 knowing what a Blade Forger is, knowing what a Battle Kaiser is, knowing what the Gara Gara is, knowing all these things. So inside the back of the New York Comic-Con edition, they have definitions of terminologies from the entire world, plus a 2-page splash on what the Gara Gara is, told in form of a tour guide taking you through it, which that's where like the Battle Kaisers exist in the Gara Gara kind of thing. So I had a lot better understanding of all the concepts in there, and there's more stuff. So when I was reading it, it was a lot smoother read for me. But reading through this the first time, that takes you up until Iwata goes to the tournament, I was completely out of left field when the two guys try to jump Iwata on the way, and he pulls out his blade. The next thing you know, like there's these giant warriors just in the air. I'm like, what is happening right now? But I talked to Inaki, who's also doing Action Comics interiors right now, but he stressed to me that this 5-issue volume that they're doing originally was just their intro idea for the Blade Forger stuff that they're going to do. So they expanded it to a 5-issue story to really set the stage. So it's almost like this will be really, in all honesty, a prequel to the grand scheme of things. And he said issue 3 will be the turn. No matter what you think, reading issue 1 and 2, you're not going to be right, because issue 3 is the true kickoff of the story. So they have a very unique way of telling stories. Like with We Live, like Bean said he loved it. Like I loved it. Changed my life. And everyone who read that went back in their seat when this character named Simon got his head ripped off in issue 2 out of left field. We're all reading this book thinking this is a protagonist, the main character, and you just do a page turn, he casually just gets his head ripped off like a lion looking thing. And then you realize instantly, like, I don't know who I'm supposed to be following. I don't know who's safe. And they're setting that same stage and vibe with this first issue. You know, you follow Iwata, you get flashbacks to him as a kid, and you do a simple page turn. And he's now an old man who everyone hates. You know, it was a total flip on its head. So they're trying to, they have a unique way of writing a story and establishing certain concepts before other things. It's really cool. I think that's what I like about this stuff, their stuff.
It's interesting.
But, I'm in for a penny, in for a pound with that book.
Yeah, I just wasn't quite sure what to expect, and there were a few aspects of it that threw me off. But it was interesting. That's awesome.
Yeah, my the shop owner here, Paul, he said he was talking. He's like, I got to go back and read it again because I was trying to read through it while I was working, and I don't know. I think I had to miss something. It bounced around a lot. I'm like, yeah, it does. It really does.
See, I want to check out Dark Pyramid that's coming out next week by Mad Cave. That looks like that might be fun.
Mad Cave's doing a lot of good stuff right now.
They are.
Dick Tracy is amazing.
I am not reading
that. I was never
right
a big Dick Tracy fan, so I really haven't been reading that. He's
got like the second or third greatest rogues gallery in comics.
Yeah,
it's pretty spectacular. That's true.
Yeah, you got like Batman, Spider-Man, Flash, and Dick Tracy, and nobody else even compete in the debate. Like those are your top 4, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say that.
Superman's got great villains, but a rogues gallery on par with those 4, I don't think anyone else does.
Well, hey, as I apologize, I just was summoned. I have got to run. But
I'm
you
good.
guys
It's 10
feel free
o'clock.
to
It's 10
hang out
o'clock
and
at
do
night.
whatever.
I'm good.
But Alan, can you shut it down?
I can shut it down. Do your thing.
Thanks. Good
I'll
night,
go
guys.
find the videos.
Josh.
Thanks for
Great
coming
to
on
see you
tonight,
again, Mark.
Mark.
Thanks for the invite. I enjoy hanging out with you guys
Anytime, brother.
You're welcome anytime.
when life allows me. I'll be here.
Beans just bought it on eBay, but I don't know if it's available on digital or not. Mad Cave really don't think they do too much of their stuff on digital unless you go to their website.
I don't know how to buy digital, if I'm being honest with you. I have the DC app, and that's the only kind of digital comic book access that I have. Beans, how you been, man? I haven't talked to you in a while, man. It's good to see you.
I'll actually just go to their website right quick and look to see.
What's the name of here's a Google Play Books. Let me look on here. I typed in We Live. My gosh. That book lives on in everyone's head, man. Yeah, Blade Forgers, it's on Google Play Books, so I'm assuming that means it's on any standard digital book thingy. Yeah, keep in mind when you read it, we're just getting the intro, Beans. Issue 3 is the big turn into the story.
Definitely know the feeling, Beans. It seems like there's always something going on. But we will go ahead and call it a night. I had fun. We enjoyed it. I got to go find that one video. Where is it at? That's the video we always play at the end. I never play the videos.
You should play the videos more.
I should play the videos more. Josh is the one that always plays the videos, but this actually goes back to when this was actually started out as a quiz show.
I remember.
Yep. So we will always end it with this one.